we're going to welcome Jake Wolki to the stage. Jake, in my opinion, because I also run a butchery and Jake does something very interesting with this, he's a disruptor who wants us to shift the needle. He's passionate about improving landscapes, animal welfare and growing nutritious food, but he's equally determined not to be restrained by shoulds or shouldn'ts from any side. It's this openness and this appetite for finding better solutions that's led to his current business model, which includes a 24/7 self-butchery, and it's an interesting idea. So without any further ado, welcome Jake.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming. They've put me up against the headline, so I appreciate you battling against the urge to go next door and supporting the cause. So my name's Jake Wolki, and I love talking. And, can you do a 40-minute prezzo, Jake? I'm like, well, I prefer to do 3 hours. So I've got notes on my phone, so I'm not texting people. I'm just, I want to stay on track for everybody here. And we're going to kick off. I'm going to give you a little bit of an idea about who we are, why we do what we do and how we do it. A bit of a Wolki Farm story, and we'll do some Q&A in the end, and if anybody's got any questions, we can pump into that. But my name's Jake Wolki. I'm here with my wife, Anne. I told you to go listen to James. I don't know what... She's heard all this stuff. There'll be no surprises. Maybe there will be. And we have a business in Albury, just north of Albury in New South Wales, called Wolki Farm, which we started in 2019. And I used to get up here with my slideshow presentation and say we're a regenerative farm business, and that's been evolving and maturing over time, and I no longer refer to us during these presentations as a regenerative farm business, because I think I just like the mental exercise of fleshing out what else are we doing. And so I like to say that we're part regenerative farm and not part commercial farm. We're part regenerative farm. We're part research and development. So we're constantly trying to iterate things, research new models and develop what we're doing. We're part startup. If you've ever been in the business world and you've seen how the startup space works, it's high energy, a lot of labour and sweat, and maybe you crash and burn, or maybe you strike it big. So we're part startup because we're in that high energy, maybe not phase. We're part distribution and supply chain logistics, which is when you get into regenerative farming and maybe you want to sell direct. Who here sells direct to market? Yeah, quite a few of you. That's also like when you get into that, you think I'm gonna spend all my time rotating my cows beautifully. We're going to do the Greg, Judy, Joel Salatin thing, and we're going to have the chickens follow the cows. And once a month we'll be in the boning room and it'll all be beautiful. And the reality is you're sitting behind a computer 40 hours a week trying to figure out where the hell's that box. Why hasn't that person paid their bill? What's going on? And so we're part distribution and supply chain, and that's a lot of what we do. And Wolki Farm, our current mission is we're quickly innovating to reach minimum scale viability and defensibility. And, we talk about regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture. Part of the metric of that is earning a living wage and being able to support yourself. Our first venture in 2019 was I leased 100 acres from my parents. Pretty quickly, we built that up to $1 million of revenue coming off that 100 acres. And if we were to buy that 100 acres at the market rate in our area without a house on it, there's no way that $1 million off that 100 acres would make any sense. We couldn't pay the interest on the mortgage, and we couldn't pay a salary, all said and done at the market rate. So, how are we going to be developing businesses in this context? So we're working hard to figure that out in our own context. We've just purchased land at Wamagama, so we're no longer just leasing. We're in the freehold thing. And when I say we're trying to reach defensibility, I've been served a legal letter once this year, and I've been to court 4 times for different agricultural related activities, trying to defend myself and people coming after us just to give you a bit of transparency. One issue was another local business took issues with some of the labelling we put on our value-added products and served us a cease and desist essentially. And then the other time I was in court was because one of my Maremas barked too much, and a neighbour called me up and I went to visit him and he tried to help me. So that was the other instance there. So colourful stuff. It's not all just moving cows, right? And I'd just like to thank the crew for having me here. I've done a lot of presentations in Australia, and I'm really excited to come to Tasmania because now I can add to my bio international speaker. And I think, is that a tired, worn-out joke or what? So to give you a bit of context, my wife and I have been married nearly 10 years. We've got 3 little children at home, and if you follow us on social medias, just whatever.com you're on, we're on there. 7, 4, and 18 months, Otto, Theo, and Esma. We've got a great little kid, and we like to do things a little bit different at home. So we're raw milk enthusiasts. Who's got a house cow? You've got to have a house cow. They're special things. We've got 2 jerseys that we have surrogate calves on, and we do some share milking, which is great. We're Bitcoin maxis. Anyone here into Bitcoin? Come on, guys. If you're into regen ag, you've got to be into Bitcoin. You've got to figure it out. Fix the money, fix the food. We own a few other local businesses. So I left school end of year 10 and I purchased a bicycle store with my parents. So we still own that bicycle store. We've had it for 15 years. I left school 2004. So we bought the business together in 2011. And that's been a crazy ride. And we also own a cafe, which is operating inside of the bike shop. In the last sort of 4 years, that cafe's been a paddock to plate extension of Wolki Farm. We homeschool our children, and we have home births, and we have the home milk and the home birth and the homeschool. And we don't own a TV, and we're obviously quackers. And so, why did we get involved in agriculture? It was not on my radar at all to farm. My parents aren't farmers. My grandpa, when he came to Australia from Germany when he was 20, which is 65 years ago, he's 85 now, still does deliveries for me, had a freight contract fall through, and I needed to get about 5 grams of produce up to Canberra. So I called my 85-year-old grandpa, and he ran it up in his Tesla the same day. So how good's that to fall back on? We had no interest in farming. We were quite happy with our bike shop and ticking along in town, and my health fell apart. I think you'll find a lot of people got into this lifestyle, whether it's healthy living and clean food and regenerative farming, through a crisis point. You read the Gabe Browns and the Colin Sykes. A lot of people have a nexus. They have some crisis in their life, and so I was a highly medicated, sickly piece of work. So I used to be on 4 scripts. I'd be on a steroid cream for my skin. I was on a script for a nasal spray, script tablets for allergies, and a script for eye drops. And every time spring came around, I could tell you, working in the bike shop, I could go, canola's flowering today. The plane trees are flowering today. I went down to Melbourne, I don't know, I was 20 years old or something, and I got one of those allergen tests. They put the pricks all over you. Now, knowing what you know about what I do for a living, fancy this, I'm allergic to dust, dirt, pollen, hair, and saliva. But I was highly allergic to these things. I was always in rashes. 7, 8-year-old, I used to scream out from my bed every morning, and Dad would come in and peel the sheets off my leg because I scratched my legs in my sleep to the point that they bled. And so it was like a little morning ritual we had. Dad would come in and he'd peel the sheets off my leg. So that was normal. We didn't really question that. It was just life that we went through. And we'd not long had our first son, Otto, and I went to the GP and I said, I need this steroid shot. All my friends are getting the steroid injection, and they say that it's helping them with their allergies. Everyone in Albury has hay fever. It's an absolute pit area for it. And to her credit, the GP said no, and I didn't know what the steroids did. Steroids are good for you, right? You take them and you get buff. So I'm like, give me the steroids. I didn't realise that they just, tank your immune system and stop you reacting from foreign bodies. And she said no, and you're too young, and it'll thin your bones, it'll screw up your testosterone. And she turned the dial up on all my other scripts. So the nasal spray got turned up to 11, and the tablet and whatever else. And I went down to the chemist, which was conveniently under the clinic, and I cashed it in. And before I'd left the chemist, I'd shaken the nasal spray and had a couple pumps up each nose, and both nostrils just opened up like a tap, and I just had blood pouring. It wasn't dripping, it was pouring. And I'm laying on the sidewalk out the front of the chemist going, the cure's worse than the disease I'm in. Like, what the hell is going on? So I went home and had a big breakdown to my wife, and I said, this snotty mess that you married, there's a lot of things going wrong here, and the medications, they gave me this beautiful new medications meant to fix everything. It's not doing anything. And Anne basically said, are you ready to stop eating shit? I was a ice break, iced coffee, breakfast kind of guy. And at the bike shop, we'd be busy, and I'd just throw one of the boys $20, and they'd go and get me a noodle box, or they'd go and get me a KFC, or whatever it was. And food was just something I didn't even think about. Just get on with work. Put it in your body, back to work. And Anne's a little bit more health conscious, a little bit more sensible, as our ladies often are. And I thought, rightio, well, let's get serious about this. And so I went down the YouTube rabbit hole and found out what organics was, and found out what biodynamics was and what regen was. And I looked around our area, so that's our why we started. It was just to grow food for ourselves. I was looking around our area going, where can I source the beef I need? Where can I source the eggs I need? And we actually had a really hard time. There was a farmer's markets once a week, and they're very protectionist rules. So only one of each producer. So one beef, one lamb, one pork, one eggs. You turn up at 8:30 with your kid on a Sunday morning, it's all sold out. So where else do we get it? Like, we've got Coles and Woolies. None of the local butchers have any idea about where any of their meat comes from. We were on holidays in Kaima or something a couple of years ago, and a butcher had a flag in a steak and it said local produce. And I was like, maybe we know the farmer. Where's that from? And so Anne goes, oh, where's that steak from? He goes, oh, somewhere in Tasmania. Anne goes, that's not local. And he was offended. He goes, it's Aussie. It's like, it's not local, you know. But really, like, we started growing because no one produced what we wanted. No one produced what we felt like we needed, and we just couldn't access it anywhere. And it sounds a bit arrogant in retrospect, but I thought, you know, bloody, how hard can it be? I'll do it myself. Like, cows are outside, they eat grass, they drink water, you get beef. Like, you know, first principles thinking, right? Logically, that's all it is. And we know, you know, it's not always that easy. So Wolki Farm was born, and we started off with a pastured layer enterprise. We built mobile eggmobiles. We got about 1,000 layers over the first couple of years. Started wholesaling them into local restaurants and organic markets, selling them by the dozen. And then we got a few cows, and we started doing the salads in rotation with the chickens behind it. And then I thought we'll get some pigs. Then I thought we'll get some sheep. Then I thought we'd get some beehives. And then we opened a market garden, and then we had the orchard, and then we, you know, and it just was a lot. And then we got broilers. We thought we'd get the meat birds in there as well, and a lot of stuff going on. And then we also breed dogs. We breed standard schnauzers for the pet market, and that was sort of like a 3-year projection of adding, because I was obsessed about, you know, dollars per meter. Let's make this land pay. Let's get everything working in harmony with each other, and it was just too much. And so the last couple of years, we've been in the process of winding back. So the first thing to go was the market garden. Sorry to all the market gardeners here. It is far easier to grow out 100 steers than grow 10 metres of carrots. Like vegetables, like what a waste of time. Give me a break. So we were doing share farming. So I was covering, to give you an idea, we had an agreement where I covered all the overheads and all the expenses. Somebody would come in and provide the labour, and I'd guarantee that I'd pay them for every kilogram of produce they created, and I'd give them 40% of revenue. And it just never worked. We could just never actually make that viable for someone. So we gave up. About a year into our business, we found the bottleneck was our processing. So for us, that wasn't slaughter. We've got relatively good slaughtering in our area, but the bottleneck was the processing. So the butchering of the carcasses, the packing it. And so I found a local butcher to do it, and I'd go to pick it up, and I'm thinking, I'm paying $2 a kilo for this, like back then, and I thought that was a lot of money. We charge $4.50 now. It was $2 a kilo, and I'd turn up, and they're packed all sloppy. There's dirty fingerprints all over the bag. The stickers are on crooked. I'm a retailer from background. I'm a merchant. I'm going, I can't charge someone $30 a kilo and give them this. And then all of a sudden, it was going to be ready on Thursday, but we couldn't get it till Friday. And then, sorry, Jake, we had to bump you, and pickup's now Monday, but can you pay your bill early because we got to pay the kill fee and all these. I'm thinking, how can I run a business like this? I can't even control production, and I'm trying to, you know, manage my customers on the other end. So my wife and I thought, we're going to fix this. We're going to buy a butchery. So there was a freehold up in town. This is a year into our farming journey. We purchased the freehold. It was closed down, so we renovated it. We bought in all the equipment. We got certified by the Food Authority again, and we got off with it. And we didn't open a front of house. It was purely for a boning room so that we could cut and process and evaluate our products. And I went around to a few of the local regen farmers, and I said, send me your beef, because I've bought this building. I've got a full-time butcher, but I've only got 2 days a week worth of work for him. So send me your work. So the first probably 6 to 8 months that Richie, our butcher, who's still with us, was working for us, he was doing 2 days a week in the butchery. He was doing a day and a half a week on the farm, and the other day and a half he was building bicycles in my bike shop for me. So he actually really enjoyed it. I think he's sick of working under the fluoros full-time now. But we had a lot of people sending us their produce for custom processing. We picked up a lot of clients. And it was one of those positions where I really believe in the saying, turn a liability into an asset, or, you know, turn a problem into an opportunity. So we saw a big gap in our business where we couldn't control that supply chain. Purchased the butchery, And it's been working really well for us. But the number one question we just consistently got from customers is, when's the butcher going to open? Because it was a boning room. There's no one ever there. My staff work whatever hours they want. So they work about 4 a.m. till midday. That's the hours they want to do. And customers are like, when can we come in? I'm like, it's not that sort of store. They're like, but it's a butchery. Yeah, it's a butchery, but you can't come in. Well, how do you sell it? I'm like, well, it's all going out on, we had CSAs, so like membership boxes. We had wholesale accounts, so restaurants and organic supermarkets, like family-owned supermarkets around the area. And people just kept getting on my grill about when can we come in. And then another local butcher who was a friend of mine, he said, Jake, when are you going to open the store? I said, it's not going to be open. I'm not going to run another retail business. I'm not going to run another roster, yada, yada, yada. And he looked at me, he said, you'll have it open in 3 months. And I thought, damn you. Because, you know, he sowed this seed and he laid down this challenge and he knew he had me. So about 4 months later, we were open. But I was sitting down one night going, how's this going to work? That year, which was 2020, we were on track to produce about $500,000, 600 grand's worth of produce off our first lease block there. And it was all already selling. It made no sense to open up a retail store and sell cuts over the counter when everything we were producing was pre-committed elsewhere. How are we going to carry that extra overhead? Sure, we can lean in and grow a bit more stuff, but that takes time. We all know that there's constraints around that. And I was doing my immigrant balance sheet. You know, my family would like to do things on the back of envelopes. And I was scratching it down and I just crossed out wages. You know, I had my projections of what revenue could be, what overheads could be, the cost of, you know, depreciation, everything else. And there was this big dirty wages line for like 70 grand. And I just crossed it out. And all of a sudden it worked. I'm like, geez, people suck. You got to pay them to do stuff. I thought, how can I do that? And I thought, maybe we can do a big walk-in vending machine. So I got onto Google and I started calling around and we developed a store where people apply for a membership. We normally have an onboarding process, which means you have to come to one of our farm tours. And then we give them a unique PIN code and they can enter the building with a 1, 2, 3, 4, enter. The door pops open, electromagnet. And that's all time logged. There's security cameras. And inside the building, we've got about 12,000 litres of glass door freezer space and everything's Cryovac portion barcode. They use their own smartphone, so they bring in their own hardware and software. They scan the barcodes, hit pay and leave. And that's been running like that since early 21, I think. And we've had very little issue. The Today Show did a story on it a while ago and I told Carl Stefanovic that we've had no shrinkage because he asked about theft and that tanked that interview. I don't know if you've seen it, but Carl heard the word shrinkage and when Carl starts laughing, he never stops. But that was probably the best thing that ever happened to us because that clip went viral. And our website crashed, you know, and so we didn't get to capture any of that data on our Pixel. Anyway, so that was the 24/7 self-service butchery. It's really simple technology. If anybody wants to ask questions about that later, we can go into it. But what I found was really interesting was I went around and I canvassed all these farmers and I said, I want to do the custom processing for you. And they said, great. Over the last 4 years, does everyone understand what I mean by custom processing? We receive your carcass, we put your logo on it, you take it and sell it at the farmers markets. I've got the data written down here. Over the last 4 years, we've processed for 25 direct-to-market retail businesses. To my knowledge, every single one of them sold every single cut of meat they ever produced for the price they asked for it, and only 3 are still in business. And that's when I start talking about things like minimum scale viability. I know a lot of people's eyes glaze over, but these people are selling pork for $40 a kilo. You know, they're getting $80 a kilo for their Scotch fillet, and every cut they're producing, they're selling, and they still give up. You know, where's the disconnect? What's going wrong? And you know, there's quite a few things which we can talk to about. But you know, the big problems that I identified watching these people was labour requirements. They were burning out themselves. It wasn't viable enough to bring in help, but they were doing everything. You know, they not only were they doing the farming and a lot of them working an off-farm job to bankroll the property purchase or whatever, but they were also going to the abattoir and then they were going to the farmers markets. And every time it rained or someone got sick, you know, normally they close their business down after someone gets sick because they realise this just doesn't work anymore. And it's other things like logistics, freight, cash flow, lack of capital, red tape, green tape, burnout. No one had hit minimum viable scale. And I love to harp on about that because scale is often demonised. We come to these gatherings where it's all about community, grassroots, conscientiousness, all these things, which I love all of them. But if we're burning out and cooking ourselves because we can't afford help, someone coming in 20 hours a week, what's regenerative about that? What's sustainable about that? Not much. So on our trajectory, if we fast forward to 2024, something that we've realised, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, Jake, is all the meat in your cabinet yours? I would have said absolutely 100%. It'll never be anyone else's, because I thought I was the only one that could do it. You fast forward 2 years into the future today, and it's really interesting how many absolutely exceptional, sensational producers are out there at scale, but they're not customer facing. They don't want to be customer facing. They don't have the accreditation. They've got their 1,000 cows over in the hill and they're doing holistic plan grazing and they're chemical free and drug free and everything's beautiful, but they don't want to be going to the farmers markets because they know all the things I've just identified, how hard it is. So we started building relationships with a lot of these producers around our area. And then when we have gaps in our production, I'm really proud about the fact that we can support their businesses, give them other markets to dip into. A lot of these people really feel good about actually knowing their produce is going through valued supply chains, direct to consumer. So that's where the logistics part of our business starts coming in. All of a sudden that adds different cash flow layers to your business. It's organising the trucking. It's working with the abattoir. And I've written down here, and this is the part that always gets me in trouble, but really in our business, the farming is the easiest bit, because that's the bit we actually want to be doing. We want to be collecting the eggs. We want to move the cows. I want to be down in the shed with my boys welding up a new pig hut. They're the things that get pushed to the end of the day because they're the easy, fun bits. So when I look at our direct-to-market business, I break it into 4 parts as of today. So we've got production, which is the farming. We've got processing, which is the slaughtering, butchering. We've got sales, which is a really wide, that should be at the tip of the funnel, shouldn't it? And that includes marketing, e-com, wholesale, the 24/7 butchery. When we were doing the CSA, that would have come under that. And then we've got the logistics, which is the freight and rostering. So our part at how we're trying to handle our business, this is going back to part startup, is where are the biggest breakdowns, where are the biggest issues. There's plenty of people that can farm really well. So we've got our home farm, we've got our cattle, we've got our sheep, but at the moment we're putting less energy and attention into trying to personally scale our own on-farm systems. They're ticking along for the land mass we've got, that's fine. We're trying to now work on logistical issues to fix those other supply chain constraints, because then we can onboard, the scale's out there. We can call Bill Wern, who lives around the corner from us. It's inexhaustible, in terms of what the scope of what our business is. So we're just trying to fix those other issues. And, why bother? Because I think there's actually enormous opportunities out there for people like us. And direct marketing, it's a lot of work, but there is something really comforting about being a price maker and not a price taker. I couldn't farm in a commodity market. And it's not a criticism to people who do, but my brain doesn't work like that. I'm 3rd generation retail, and you know what price you buy it for, and then you generally have an idea what price you sell it for, because things come with an RRP, a recommended retail price, on the label. And really your only job is just, manage the operation costs in the middle. And it's pretty simple. Well, I feel like a Indian on a rug, trading things. It's give me 2 of them and I'll give you 1 of that. My uncle, who's probably been the most successful business person in my family, his whole philosophy in business is buy it for $1, sell it for 2. Like if you ask him what his business plan is, or what his values are, or what his ethics are, it's like buy for 1, sell for 2. And that's all it is. Not in a commodity market, and I can't quite wrap my head around that. That's my own malware. Also selling direct to market, you increase your cash flow and your margin. And I actually think that agriculture, especially in this scene that we're a part of, it needs to become more entrepreneur friendly. All the innovation, all the energy, all the creation, all the dynamic expansion comes from entrepreneurs. And what do entrepreneurs want? They want fast pace. It's not easy to be an entrepreneur in that fast paced dynamic startup world when you're breeding cattle. If you wanted to be an entrepreneur in cattle, you'd run a feedlot. That's how my brain works. I'm like, if I wanted to be a really dynamic cash in, cash out, trying different additives in feed and getting immediate market feedback loops, to join a cow and then sell the steer through your business is a 3-year turnaround. It's not very dynamic. There's a lot of work behind it, but it's not quick. So we're not attracting the people that want to bring that dynamism to the market, but direct marketing really does, I think, and that's one of the reasons I'm interested in it, because I can iterate things. Like thinking about it the other day, there's the innovation tent. One of the things that we tried on our farm, which flopped, because we can talk about the wins, but something that flopped was a lady called up and she goes, I raised Dexters, little itty bitty cows, beautiful little cows, organic systems, everything aligned with us. So I bought a few over the hook, and I'm looking at them going, I've produced hoggets bigger than these things. These are little. And I said to my butcher, Richie, hey, Richie, throw this through the bandsaw like a lamb. He's like, what? I said, put it through the bandsaw. Out of the forequarter, I want barbecue chops. I want chump chops. I want bone-in rump. I want a leg roast, half leg roast. And he's like, you're going to screw up all your scotchies and all your eye fillet. I'm like, I don't care. We're not going to have scotchies and eye fillet. We're going to have loin chops and cutlets out of this body of beef. And I thought it was really fun. We sold it all, took a while. Customers were like trying to slow cook the barbecue chop was this big, So they're like, what do we do with it? It doesn't fit in the crock pot. But when we like talking about innovation and trying out different things, I thought that was really fun. And the reason I thought it was fun was it took my yield through the roof. Because lamb's great. You don't throw anything out. You get the whole hook weight. Lamb's fantastic. So you didn't throw anything out of the beef, and I could sell it to our customers for like low $20 a kilo instead of our normal 30 plus a kilo. So I probably could have pushed that a bit more, but you can't fight every battle. That's a freebie. If anyone's got Dexter's, yeah. Half a Dexter cut up like a lamb, I reckon there's a bit of fun in it. So what's the future for us? We're working hard to collaborate with other farmers. We're focusing production with an emphasis on consistency and efficiency. One thing I realized when I was custom processing for all these other farmers, not all of them were small regen operations. A lot of them were really interesting farms. Some were at scale, and the kids were trying the direct to market thing. And so dad would have a couple thousand lambs coming through, and the kids are like, well, can I buy them off you at whatever? And I'll get them chopped up with Jake, and I'll take them to the farmer's market or sell them online. And one thing I noticed was all the big farmers always sent through better lamb than all the little farmers. And I was trying to figure out how that worked, because I'm like, I don't like your production models, but your lamb's always better. And I worked out it wasn't that their lambs were better. Their lambs were more consistent because they could draft tops. You put 500 lambs into the yard and you run them through the scales, and they'd send in 20 lambs to me, and they were all 23 kilos within a kilogram. And then I'll get 20 lambs from the permaculture guy down the road, and they're between 16 and 32. Because he just sent his whole annual production through in one snapshot. So what we're trying to, those things are what they are. That's fine. And if you've got a little clicky network of customers, you can market that. You can work to that a little bit. I don't want to have to fight that fight anymore. I want to have enough lambs that I can draft off tops and just give my customers what they expect. Does that make sense? So we're focusing on consistency and efficiency. I'm obsessed about value-add products. If you follow any of our social media channels, I'm going to get into what a few of those are now. But the reason I'm obsessed about value-added products is because they increase margin. I pen our cost of goods at about 50%. 50% margin sounds like a lot. It's not enough. Like my electricity bill per quarter is $8,000 just out of the store, not across the 4 leases we run. So we've got big overheads. So we get better margin. As a segue, we're all friends here. We can talk dollars and cents. I've got quite a few friends in the e-com world, so they'll go do some self-guru course, hire a mentor to help them build a business. They'll start a Shopify. They'll find something out of China on AliExpress, and they'll put their logo on it, and they'll like sort of half drop ship it into the market. One of these guys does. I won't say exactly what he does. I don't want to dox him, but he does little consumables for the pet market. And in 2 years, he's built like a $4 million online business from no business experience. But they've got a formula. And none of these guys will touch a product unless they've got 80% margin on it. Now, most people I talk to in our area, when I start talking margin to them and I talk about numbers north of 50% for a gross margin, they're almost offended. It's like they've got moral handcuffs. And they're like, we couldn't possibly overcharge our customers and put more than 50% gross margin. I say to them, if that's your opinion, you haven't done your numbers. Because 50% margin, you're not paying yourself. That's the way my business runs anyway. Maybe I could run it a lot better and have a lower margin, but I can't. I love margin. When you value add products, you increase margin, you increase shelf life generally. You increase market reach, distribution opportunities. So I'm just going to get into one of our little collabs that we do at home, and then I'm going to take you through 3 or 4 value add products, and you can I'll give them to you for free. You can go and copy me, that's fine. I'll get your juices flowing about how you might be able to add to that. But talking about collaboration, about a year ago, 2 local agronomists came to me. They're friends, David Bushell and Jim Alexander. Some of you might know a couple of them. And they said, Jake, there's a lot of land up here for sale. So they're in the Temora, West Wyalong region, for lease, sorry. Do you want to lease some land? So the croppers lease the neighbours, and then a bad season comes through and they'll walk off the lease sometimes. And these leases aren't easy to find. It's normally leased to neighbours, family, or the stock agents. That's sort of the order of where it goes. Sometimes agronomist gets a mention in there. And so I said, I'll lease some land with you gentlemen. So we first took on 2,000 acres, and now between the three of us, we've got somewhere around 4,000 acres up at West Wyalong, and we're starting to build up a bit more of a meaningful flock, and we're going to do some no-kill pasture cropping so we can raise our own pork and chicken feed in-house, which is something that I'm really excited about. And that's the big dirty scale word. But how, in what position am I ever going to be able to have a proper traceable pig feed with none of the junk on it? Like, the best I can do is GMO free. I can't even get organic. I used to truck down organic feed from Queensland in bulker bags, so wrap your head around the environmental footprint on that. And then I had a phone call. This is years ago. This is 21 or something. I got a phone call from the mob I was buying it off to let me know that because of the drought, there was an amendment by the certified body where they could up the cut rate. And I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, currently, when you're buying our certified organic pig feed, it's 85% certified organic, 15% commodity. We've cut it to hold the price down. And my brain broke a little bit because I'm like, it's organic or it's not. You mix it, it's not organic anymore. It might be, you could say, like lower chemical or whatever. He said, and because of the drought, we've got a temporary concession to keep prices down. The cut rate's gone to 25%. So I'm like, I'm killing myself to truck these bulker bags and bucket them into all this stuff when I could be buying GMO free from the local mill for a third of the price. So it became about being pragmatic, and then eventually with the idea, big, hairy, audacious goal, one day we'll grow it ourselves. We're not going to do that by ourselves. So this is where I think collaboration and scale's really exciting, and it's nice to have a few guys that know more than you, that you can handball that to. I don't have to learn about cropping. I'm really not interested. Let them do the cropping. So talking about value add, I've got a photo of some pork loins here. Talking about pork, I love pigs. I think pigs are the kings of value add. Who raises pigs? Yeah, quite a few of you. Very good. What's the most profitable cut or product that comes out of pork? Does anyone have a guess? I'll tell you what mine is. It's the lard, the fat. It's better than streaky bacon. It's better than pork belly. It's better than whatever you want. And most businesses, I wouldn't say most businesses that might be at this event, but most businesses throw it out. When you go to butchering store, you have a renderer who turns up, and for free, they used to pay the butcheries. Now they just take all your waste out of the back door, the bones, the offal, the sinew, the ligaments, and they tip it into the back of their truck, and they go and sell it to Mars, and it gets burnt into kibble. The lard goes out. They want 8 mil back fat on a pig. We aim for 12 because we're not scared of fat. We think fat's a superfood. Now I'm aiming for 20 because that stuff's really valuable, and I want to fleece it off and turn it into stuff. So lard's the most possible. And so what do we do with it? We just render it into cooking fat. $60 a kilo we get for it. And what's the margin on something you would have thrown out? We put it in a big 20-litre stainless pot. We heat it up for a few hours. We tip it into glass jars. The jar and the lid cost us 70 cents each, and out it goes. We just got labour and gas. And bonus cuts. The dehydrate, so we snip off the nose, the ears, the tail, the trotters, and we split the trotters in half. We dehydrate them. We get $67 a pig for pet treats. That covers our kill fee and the haulage to the abs and back. They're all throwouts. There's not many people that want trotters these days. We sell a few, like I'm starting to attract all the bone broth crew, which I'm very excited about. But this is stuff that gets thrown out. So my whole thing when we're doing value adds, look in the bin. That's where you see stuff to do the value add. The next value add, and to talk to my previous point, lard, dehydrated nose, ears, tail, trotters, it's all shelf stable, it's all unrefrigerated, and you can ship it all in Australia Post. Can't do any of those things with meat. Meat, every week you're holding meat and it's not shipped out the door, you've got a carrying cost, you've got your freezers rolling. It deteriorates, a freezer breaks down and your alarm doesn't go off, it's all in the bin. There's a lot of liability in holding that specific inventory, not with dehydrated pet treats and rendered lard. Another value add that I love is meat pies and sausage rolls. The reason I love it is that producer that sends me their 20 lambs and the bottoms are 16 and the tops are 32, you don't want to sell a 16 kilo lamb cut up into parts for your friends. They'll never buy a few again. You just fleece the thing and you put it into a meat pie. Or if you've got an old mutton, and I think mutton's great personally, but if you're scared about a stinky old 100 kilo ram or something, meat pie. Marinate it, put it in a pie, 200 gram of fat, you got a $10 pie sausage roll. We do them. We make them in our cafe. Every time they go on our website, they sell out. It's annoying how good they sell actually, because they're a bit of a burden to produce. We're building a commercial kitchen at the moment, so we're going to fix that. But people love a heat and eat offering, and this gives you an avenue for your cull cow, your old 10-year-old cow, your bulls. We've got about 600 ewes running in our flock of Damaras up at West Wyalong, and the way we're running it at the moment, we're running an open flock and we're not castrating any of the ram lambs. So when we're drafting them off as lambs or two-tooths, we're finding the meat's fantastic. No one said otherwise. They keep reordering it, so that's proof of work. But if we pull off any top rams that are a bit old and maybe we think they might be a little bit stinky or whatever, meat pie. It's pretty easy. Mask it with mint and rosemary. Take whatever ram taint you're worried about and flavour the hell out of it. Another one I think this is one of my best, if I don't say so myself, and it's the only one that I'm no longer currently doing, was dehydrated chicken for pet treats. Now, we were doing broilers. I'd actually set up I'm really full of myself at the moment. I set up an awesome broiler setup on our farm. So we had a brooder set up in a 40-foot reefer, and we were turning out 700. Does anyone raise broilers? Do you want me to? I'll get into data for a little bit quickly. We were turning through 700 day olds every 21 days. They were coming in as day olds, and they were coming out. Our losses were under 1%, and we were spitting them out of the brooder at about 750 grams at 21 days old. And then we were putting them on pasture into mobile huts, like a hoop house that I'd put on skids. They were, 18 by 6 meters. And I set them up with a winch and a solar system and an automatic timer. And every day the schooners would actually get dragged sideways 6 meters by a geared down winch. I used a tackle, and it just automatically, no labor required, just drag the whole thing sideways really slowly 6 meters. So the birds were having daily moves on pasture with no labor. And I had an auger feed pan system set in there. So we just set up a jackie bin, dumped a ton of feed. So feed chores for a batch of birds on pasture was literally twice, and plumbed in water. So I feel like we sort of cracked the code. It was the birds just went for it. You just let them go out there and you went for it. And those birds on pasture would grow out to a 1.5 kilo carcass in another 21 days. So we were selling out, we were producing market ready birds in 42 days. You want to get an entrepreneur excited, you want to get an innovator excited, that's fast. And if you want to run a study where you put a bit of apple cider vinegar in the water, you can run that really quickly. You can get feedback immediately. We gave up because Tammy's going to talk about this tomorrow, I believe. But for us, it was the abattoir access became the bottleneck for that. We were processing 250 birds a week, but we were doing it in fortnightly batches, so 500 a fortnight. And the way to work with the only ab we had access to, we'd have to get to the farm at 11 p.m, load up by midday, a bit by midnight, get to the abs 4:30, come home and then drive back 2 days later to bring them home in the refrigerated truck, because twice supply chain brought back 20 grams worth of chicken off. So we just started getting it ourselves. And so that was a staff welfare issue. We canned the chickens. But dog food. So when I was raising a 1.5 kilo chicken, we were getting about $35 retail for that in the market, which is sort of going rate-ish, I think, for a whole pastured bird, which is about double what an organic bird is at a conventional system, but a certified organic bird. And it's almost 4 times that cooked chook at Coles. What are they, $10? $9 or something? They're a bit smaller, like a kilo bird, but you get the point. I chopped the whole bird up into portions. So when one of those, I say look in the bin to find your opportunities, one of these pallet loads with 20 grams worth of chicken on it came in, and we opened the top, and off chicken, as soon as you smell it, your nose knows. And this was only killed 2 days ago. Somewhere it sat on a dock and didn't get put in a truck on time, and the whole pallet load was off, and they were all whole birds. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with this? So I got my cleaver out and I took the wing off, and then I sectioned the wing into 3 pieces. And then I took the breast off and I cut the breast into 5 strips, and I turned this bird into about 30 pieces. I've developed a way I cut up the frame, and I took the breastbone off, and then I chopped the vertebrae, and I put it in my dehydrator, and I mucked around with that. And I was dehydrating whole chickens after they were portioned into little dog treats. My yield was about 70% because it was all bone in. So you'd think there's a lot of moisture in a chicken. That actually blew me away that my yield was 70%. I got more than I wanted. Then I went to Pet Barn and Pet Stock, and I looked at what they were selling their dehydrated chicken pets for, just commodity off the shelf. And that one chicken that I used to get $35 for, I turned into $112 of pet treats, and it was now shelf stable, and I could post it anywhere in the world. Like, freighting a chicken to someone's a nightmare. You know, it's a really tough thing to do. And the best thing about dehydrated pet treats is the target market never complains. You never get an email back going, you know, this was a bit beefy or whatever. Like, they love it. Yeah. And the flack I normally get from that is waste of good produce. We're here to feed people. I sort of don't care. We've got our production values on the farm. If I had my slideshow, I'd show you what they are. But we've got our 5 pillars of production. You can hear me talk about it on YouTube or whatever. But we want to enhance animal welfare. We have our environmental backbone. We want to produce healing food, build community, and make profit. And doing the pet treats, I tick 4 of them, and I tick 5 of them if you do healing food for pets instead of people. And so I think that's a great one. Another one that we're doing at the moment, we're at our 40 minutes, so we'll get going. But another one, the big value add, what's next for Wolki Farm, what's the roadmap? We're getting into skincare. Everyone's seen the tallow skincare, the Crunchy Mum stuff. It's all awesome. We need a piece of that. We think that's a pretty good way to go. And one of the reasons we do, who knows the most recession-proof industry? Cosmetics. Yep. It's not food. It's not energy. It's cosmetics. And what comes second? Can you guess? Chocolate. It's alcohol. I'm pretty sure it's cosmetics, alcohol, gambling. 1, 2, 3. So, wrap your head around societal, preferences and priorities around that. That's bizarre. But we're now we're doing animal fat skincare out of lard. Everyone's doing tallow. We think lard is a great offering. And one of the reasons I picked lard is I can actually scale lard. To get a little bit of suet out of a body of beef that you bred its mum 3 years ago, and you get a little 2 kilo lump or 4 kilo, whatever it is, versus a pig that you can ad lib feed for 9 months and pull 30 kilos out of it. One I can actually produce, and we can have a lot of fun. We've done chestnut finished pigs a few times, and the fat that comes out of those animals is incredible. It's like butter. You can take the fat cap off a loin chop and stick your finger through it. It comes out the other side. Like, there's something about it. So we're having a bit of fun mucking around with feed additives and not worrying so much if our pigs nudge that fat score. I've got at the moment, this event actually ruined my abattoir run, which is fine. So some of the pigs that I'll be going, it'll be a little bit bigger than what our customers would want. We're probably going to be hitting almost 20 mil fat cap. And those pigs it's not a big deal because they're actually far more profitable for us now because we slice that fat cap off. So what we'll do is we'll smoke the loin and make short cut with no skin on it. No one cares because it's chewy anyway when it comes out of a free range pig. And we'll just render out the skin product, and we'll make that shelf stable, Australia post shippable, high margin item, and it opens up wholesale opportunities, all sorts of fun stuff. So there are a few of the things that we're doing at the farm. There's a lot more, but that's my shtick. Thank you very much. I'll take questions if anyone's got one.
What's a crunchy mum?
And what's a crunchy mum? So the crunchy mums, it's an affectionate term that they label themselves with. So I'm not speaking out of school here, but the crunchy mums are the ones with the essential oils and the organic. Yep. Does that make sense? They're the out there. There's a few here. Yes?
So, I'm just curious to know what your number one selling point to your customer is, because it's obviously you're using, you say you're kind of moving away from that regenerative, you're using different farms, you've got some consistency and some not consistency. So, is it the regen, is it the quality or the spec, the taste of the meat? What is,
Sure.
what is the number one thing that is,
Yeah, so
you're awesome on YouTube, kind of your fame? Like, what's your...
Yeah, the question is what's the selling pitch to customers?
Yeah.
Well, in the beginning, I tried to preach the holistic, because because we think we do a good job at animal welfare, the environment falls in line because we're not having to use chemicals and we're producing healing food. So I guess I tried to sell the whole thing. our thing now is chemical-free food, which I know that's a shit term because water's a chemical. But, you know, I think we get caught up in semantics. Like some farmers don't like the word chemical-free because water's a chemical, or like I let my cattle lick sulfur licks, you know, it's a chemical. People hear that and they think poison-less food, you know, so you've got to speak to them at the level they are. So that'd be our number one thing. It'd just be that we're not using chemicals on our property. Yep. Yes.
Do you think the market is interested in that food is coming from land that is improving? Is that a factor in your markets?
Yeah, I think, yeah, our customers interested in knowing that their food's coming from land that's improving. I think that's almost a byproduct. Like, I think they just want to know that it's coming off land that's not being abused. Like, a lot of consumers are cottoning on to farming can be very extractive. And if you can just, you know, I'm actually starting to completely refuse to get involved in a lot of these conversations. So this might trigger some people, but I get asked all the time about, you know, seaweed meal for methane and all these sorts of things. And I think we've got a lot of great technology that we can tell good stories with. But I actually don't accept the premise that to start off that cows are bad for the environment. So I just like to slap them back in the face and go like, take that first, and then we can get into the details. But you know, our messaging is animal welfare. I get a lot of vegans buying our food because they see all the videos and it's a bit of social proof and it gives them license to eat meat again. Then we get the environmentalists that want to know it's chemical free on a land sense. Then there's a lot of people that are interested about what they're consuming. And just most recently, I guess, we've got a growing amount. I think the economy's hard at the moment and we've lost a lot of our young local families that were scrimping and saving to access our food. And they've just gone back to like grass-fed at Coles because that's all they can afford at the moment, which is, we don't begrudge that. Like, we understand everyone's at where they're at. But our business is still growing, and we're, for better or worse, we're attracting a lot of higher income earners in the cities. And that's a food experience purchasing decision. Like, we're maintaining them because they love the food. So it's interesting to watch sort of the demographics shift over time. So. Yep. So the butchery is actually not vending machines. I know it's not semantics, but they access a building with a unique code on the door. So think about a 24-hour gym. And then it's open door freezers that they can just grab whatever they want out of the freezer and then they scan it with a phone. So we used to live 5 minutes around the corner and the butchers work out the back. So it's the same freehold as where the butchers work. Now we live half an hour away, but I'm in there almost every day. So I've got staff that pack all our orders and do our dispatch. And part of that's re-merchandising the shelves. I've helped a few people open up. So there's a mob in Townsend, Butcher to Go. Cade and Karen Robinson opened up. There's a gentleman I just did some consulting for in Tasmania. I can't remember his name. There's two or three that are opening up. I don't have any, you know, I'm not going to open up anymore. The 1 footprint's enough for us. I'd rather just put it in the box now. Yep. Sir?
How do you go with labour? It sounds like everything else is sorted.
Yep.
Actually having people.
Yeah, labour's a massive point, and you know, with our bike, like I've in the last 15 years of running businesses, I've probably paid out $30 million in wages across our different stores. And the landscape now is completely different to when I started. And I've got this thing in the back of my head: if you can't fire, you can't hire. It's you know, there are so many well-meaning rules that just have small and medium business around the throat. We had a lovely lady who worked in our bike shop have a child, so she went and had the child. And we replaced her role, and then she came back and we had to sack that guy, and then he went on unemployment because he couldn't find another job. And like, the whole thing's just really hard. Like, there's no easy answers. On the farm, if we rewind 12 months on the farm, I had 2 full-time farm hands and a part-timer on the weekend, and I didn't lift a finger on the farm. I was just in the butchery. Now I've got a guy that helps me out 2 hours a day to collect eggs, and apart from that, I do everything through subcontractors, which I'm actually really excited about, outsourcing subcontractors, because instead of getting an unskilled kid who you've got to hold their hand and you're worried about them getting killed in the cattle yards for $30 an hour, I bring in a subcontractor to work my sheep, and he's $100 an hour. He brings 2 kelpies and a portable set of yards. You know, like, what's better for the animals? What's better for you? He's got his own insurance. You know, he doesn't need minimum hours. He teaches me. You know, so on farm with farm labour, we're actually getting away from direct employment, but we're tapping into subcontractors that we use regularly, and we're forming good relationships with them.
You can get enough
Yep. Yep. Yes.
Abattoirs.
Yes.
So the relationship with transport too, and your on-call staff, because that's what's missing in Tassie, the closure of the southern abattoirs here. And
Yes.
yeah, so how do you interact with the staff much at the abattoir? Are they
Not the staff on the kill floor. I've got really good relationships with the guys in the office. I think there's a lot of reasons why these abattoirs are shutting us out. I think one of the biggest issues is you're getting the Brazilians and the Chinese buying it, and like what interest do they have? Both the abs we use are still Aussie owned. I can call the owners and have a chin wag, but I'm very strict on my drivers and myself, because I do a fair bit of the loading and driving, that we're always on time. We always deliver what we say, and we always pay our bill before it's due. Like these guys that are slaughtering 1,000 sheep a day. One of our local labs does 5,000 sheep a day, and so they buy the lambs, they slaughter them, and then they sell them. So they're getting, their margin spread over sales, not contract kills. And then you ring up and you book in 12, and you turn up outside of delivery hours. Then your bill comes in 2 hours, two weeks late. Why the hell would they ever want to deal with a nuisance like a little gnat like us? So every Christmas I send them half a pallet of VB down to the main ab we use, just to lube up the whole system and try keep everything good. So that's just like sort of business 101, don't be a liability. It's easier said than done. I don't know what the solution is there. Yes?
With the butchery, the fresh meat versus the frozen meat, how do you go with your customers there?
Sure. I've never sold a fresh cut of meat. We freeze everything. And in the beginning, the first couple of years, we got a lot of, people would buy half a body of beef off us, 80 kilos of meat, and then sort of like be a little bit put off that they'd arrive at their doorstep frozen. And I'd be like, what were you going to do with it? You going to eat all this right now? It's like, no, we wanted to freeze it ourselves. I said, well, wouldn't you rather me freeze it the day I packed it? So in the beginning, we had a lot of education. Like, I don't think it even says on our website it's shipped frozen now. We never have any feedback. Everything is just out frozen all the time. It was. I think if there's an issue, they're just probably not our customer. Like, there's so many people out there. It's just managing fresh inventory is an absolute nightmare. It's too much of a liability. I couldn't do what I do managing fresh. Yes. Oh, look, we would love to do on-farm processing, and I could access the capital. I know some talent. We could build an abattoir. We could get the plans done. We could do it all, but it's the green and the red tape. All of a sudden, my 4 neighbours had all become enemies. I don't know what the answer is. I think the Provenir model of a portable, being able to get around a DA because it's on a trailer, I think is really attractive. I don't know. It's a big.
They're running a webinar on Tuesday, the 11th. Wednesday, the 11th of December, Provenir model.
Yep. The thing with the Provenir model, like I've spoken to Chris a little bit, love what they do, like massive tip hat. But for me, it gets around a few issues, but it's very expensive for its output. You could probably build an abattoir with like a little concreted holding pen outside for 600 grand that'd put through 5 times what he can do out of his trailer because of size constraints and the fact that you've paid $1 million for a truck before you've decked it out, sort of. There's a lot of compromises there. I'm not an abattoir expert. Yes.
Where do you go to get information? Like, say you go all of a sudden I'm calling into broilers.
Yep.
What do you consume?
So, broilers are an interesting one. If you want to raise broilers, the birds literally come with a manual. So you can go to Buyada, where you buy your genetics from. You get your day-old chicks up at Tamworth, and you can you can type in the model number of bird you're buying and download a PDF that tells you day 1, 33 degrees Celsius, 65% humidity, and they need 23% protein feed ad lib. Put them on parchment paper so they don't eat saw shavings. Day 2, and they like everything is so whether you want to take the antibiotic bit or whether you want to like whatever. But out of all animals, broilers are probably the most hands-on, but it's also all the work's been done.
I probably meant, sorry, more broadly, like where are you consuming information from to get your
University of YouTube. I like reading, trial and error. I think we had all these different enterprises that was throwing mud at a wall and see what stuck. Our models, the first cows I purchased to breed were shorthorns. Some of my cows are like nearly 800 kilos. They're so big, and now we're raising these Nguni Bos Indicus cows, and my mature cows are under 400 kilos. We tried something and we didn't like what we saw there, and we just pivoted. We're not committed to anything. Yep, we're done. Thanks, guys.